The night Forbes valued my company at $185 million, I received a single text from the man who had ghosted the biggest ceremony of my life. My father did not call to congratulate me. He demanded I call him immediately because he was terrified. He was not scared of my anger, but of the police cars currently pulling into the driveway of the lake house I had kept secret for 3 years. My name is Lauren Whitaker. I am 32 years old, originally from the suffocating suburbs of Columbus, Ohio, and I currently reside in Denver, Colorado. To the public, I am the CEO and co-founder of Northridge Systems, a logistics technology firm that just closed a Series B funding round, valuing us at $185 million. That number was plastered on screens behind me as I walked across the stage at the Rocky Mountain Startup Gala. The applause was deafening. The lights were blinding. But from the podium, all I could see were 4 empty chairs at table 12. I had sent the invitations 2 months ago. I had offered to pay for the flights. I had offered to book the hotel suites. It's a long drive from the airport. Lauren, my father, Dale, had told me over the phone 3 days prior, and your mom doesn't have anything fancy to wear. We don't fit in with those tech people. You know how it is. We are so proud of you, though. My mother, Brandy, had added in the background, her voice thin and distracted. We'll be thinking of you. They were thinking of me, apparently, from a barbecue in Fort Collins, 10 minutes before my name was announced. I made the mistake of checking Instagram. My younger sister, Kelsey, had posted a selfie. She was holding a red plastic cup, grinning next to my parents and a dozen cousins we rarely spoke to. The caption read, "Family time is the best time." So blessed. They were 40 minutes away. They were not busy. They were not intimidated by the travel. They simply chose not to be there. I accepted the Crystal Award. I smiled for the photographers. I shook hands with investors who told me I was a visionary. Inside, I felt absolutely nothing. It was a cold, hollow silence, the kind that comes when a hypothesis is finally proven correct. I did not cry. Crying implies you are surprised or hurt. I was neither. I was merely verified. I skipped the after-party. I walked out the back exit of the convention center, my heels clicking against the concrete like the ticking of a clock. I got into my SUV and drove. I did not head toward my penthouse in downtown Denver. I drove west, toward the mountains, watching the city lights fade in my rearview mirror until there was nothing but the dark outlines of the Rockies and the stretch of I-70. My destination was a small, modern cabin near Grand Lake, Colorado. This house does not exist on my social media. It does not exist in the family group chat. It does not even exist under my name. I purchased it 6 months ago through a shell company I named WHTR Lake Holdings. The deed, the utilities, and the property taxes are all routed through a registered agent in Delaware. To my family, I am a resource. I am the one who fixes the credit card debt. I am the one who co-signs the leases. I am the stability they cling to while simultaneously resenting my success. This house was the only thing I owned that was truly mine. It was a physical boundary made of glass and timber. I pulled into the gravel driveway at 1 a.m. The air was thin and bit at my exposed skin as I stepped out of the car. The lake was a black void in front of me, silent and indifferent. I unlocked the door, not with a key, but with a biometric scan of my thumb. The lock clicked open with a heavy mechanical thud. I walked inside and did not turn on the lights. I stood in the darkness of the living room, listening to the wind rattle the pine trees outside. This was my sanctuary. No one knew I was here. No one could ask me for money here. No one could tell me I was being difficult here. I was wrong. I stood in the darkened kitchen of the lake house, the silence ringing in my ears like a physical weight. It was the kind of quiet money could not usually buy, but I had spent nearly $1 million specifically for this lack of noise. My phone lay face down on the marble island, vibrating every few minutes with notifications I refused to check. I knew the pattern without looking. First came the guilt, then the anger, and finally, the requests. I have been the fixer for the Whitaker family since I was old enough to hold a pen. My childhood memories are not filled with bike rides or playground games, but with the texture of overdue notices and the sound of my father, Dale, pacing the linoleum floor of our kitchen in Ohio. We are a team. Lauren. He would shout when I hesitated to hand over the money I had saved from mowing lawns or babysitting. In this house, nobody gets to be selfish. You pitch in, you help the family. But being a team always meant I played every position. I was the one who called the cable company to beg for an extension, lowering my voice so the neighbors would not hear through the thin walls. I was the one who smoothed things over when Dale got into screaming matches with contractors or waiters, apologizing for his temper while he sat in the car, fuming and righteous. My mother, Brandy, was the soft edge of the blade. She never demanded. She sighed. She would sit at the edge of my bed, smelling of lavender and anxiety, and touch my hand. He just gets so worked up because he loves us so much, she would whisper, her eyes wide and pleading. You know how he is. If you just handle this one bill, it will calm him down. I just worry about you. Lauren, I do not want you to deal with his yelling. You have to understand. So I understood. I paid. I fixed. I absorbed the shockwaves so the foundation would not crack. Then there was Kelsey. My sister viewed my ambition not as a trait to emulate, but as a natural resource to be mined. By the time I was 25, my credit score was her safety net. She leased cars she could not afford because my big sister is the co-signer. She dropped my name at restaurants and clubs in Columbus to skip lines. Lauren will cover it, became the family motto. I bought this property 6 months ago, on a Tuesday night in November. I had just finished a 16-hour day preparing for the due diligence phase of our Series B funding. My phone had rung at 2 a.m. It was Kelsey, sobbing because her landlord was threatening eviction over an unauthorized pet. Then my dad texted, asking about a loan for a truck he did not need. I sat in my penthouse office, staring at the city lights, and realized I could not cry. I was physically unable to shed a tear. The well was dry. I did not want a vacation. I wanted to cease to exist, just for a little while. I opened my laptop and bought the lake house in cash, sight unseen. I did not put my name on the deed. I formed a limited liability company called WHTR Lake Holdings. I used a registered agent in Delaware. I set up a separate post office box in a town 40 miles away for the property tax bills. This house was a system failure protocol. It was the emergency brake. I thought I had been careful. I thought the firewall was impenetrable. But looking back, the leaks had started weeks ago, disguised as casual conversation. It started with a phone call from my mother last Sunday. The weather in the mountains must be terrible this time of year, she had said, her voice light and breezy. Do you think the roads up near Grand Lake are paved? Or is it all dirt tracks I had frozen, phone pressed to my ear? Why do you ask? Oh, just curious. I saw a picture on a calendar. It looked steep. Then, 3 days ago, Dale had sent a text that seemed innocent enough. Do those fancy smart locks you tech people use work if the power goes out? Or do you need a physical key? Why, I had texted back, just debating getting one for the garage. He replied, and yesterday, Kelsey had sent a message that made my stomach turn over. Does your friend's place, that cabin you go to sometimes, does it have a boat dock? Toby was saying the water level is low this year. I stared at the black glass of the kitchen window, my reflection staring back at me like a ghost. They were not making conversation. They were scouting the perimeter. They were looking for weaknesses in the fence I had built. And tonight, while I stood here in the dark, I had the sinking realization that they were no longer just asking questions. They were making plans. The silence following the gala did not last long. It was replaced 7 days later by a specific kind of noise, the low-frequency hum of a trap being set. I was back in my office at North Ridge, staring at a spread of quarterly projections, when my phone began to buzz with a frequency that made the hair on my arms stand up. It started with my mother. Her call came in at 10 in the morning on a Tuesday, a time she usually reserved for watching her talk shows. "Lauren, honey," she said, her voice dripping with a sweetness that always preceded a request. "I was just thinking about you. You seem so distant lately, dashing off every Friday. Where do you go on the weekends? Anyway, is it somewhere nice?" I held the phone away from my ear, staring at the device. "I work. Mom. You know that. Work." She scoffed lightly. "Nobody works that much. I bet you have a secret hideaway. A little love nest. Maybe." She laughed, but it was not a joke. It was a probe. She was fishing for coordinates. Before I could deflect, a text message from Kelsey lit up my screen. "Hey, sis. Life is so crazy right now. Do you have anywhere quiet I could crash? I just need to escape for a few days. I heard the lakes in Colorado are gorgeous this time of year. Like, really private." My stomach tightened. I had never mentioned the lake house to Kelsey. I had never mentioned the lake house to anyone. Then came the call from my father, Dale, later that afternoon. He did not bother with small talk. Hypothetically, he started, his voice booming over the line. "That place you go to. Does it have a big living room, I mean? Big enough for floor space? Could it fit, say, 4 or 5 adults if they needed to sleep over?" "What place?" "Dad," I asked, my voice steady, though my pulse was hammering against my wrist. "Oh, you know." He chuckled. A dry, scratching sound. "I am just asking for fun. Just curious about real estate values. You don't have to get so defensive. Lauren." I hung up, my hands trembling slightly. I recognized this tactic. It was the same way they approached asking for money. First came the vague interest, then the emotional appeal, and finally, the logistical assessment of how much they could take. They were not asking questions to understand my life. They were sizing up the square footage for an invasion. I tried to focus on my work, but 20 minutes later, my executive assistant walked in, looking confused. "Lauren," she said, "we just got a weird email at the general inquiry address. Someone claiming to be a vendor needs to verify the billing address for a secondary asset connected to your name. They mentioned a property in Grand County." I felt the blood drain from my face. "Delete it," I ordered. "Do not reply. Mark it as phishing." As soon as she left, I opened my laptop and pulled up the security interface for the lake house. I logged into the admin panel for the perimeter cameras. My breath hitched. The logs showed activity. At 3 in the morning the previous night, there had been 12 failed login attempts on the camera system. Someone had been trying to guess the password. The IP address was masked, but the intent was clear. They did not just want to know where I was, they wanted to see inside. I did not call my parents. I did not text Kelsey to ask what she knew. That would only confirm their suspicions. Instead, I went to war silently. I spent the next hour scrubbing my digital footprint. I changed every password to a randomized string of 20 characters. I enabled 2-factor authentication on the smart locks, the thermostat, and the security feed. I set the system to save all footage directly to an encrypted cloud server, removing the local storage option that could be physically stolen. I even ordered a set of independent, battery-operated door sensors that operated on a separate cellular frequency, completely bypassed the main Wi-Fi. I sat back, watching the green status lights on my screen, wondering how they had found the scent. The LLC was buried deep. WHTR Lake Holdings was anonymous. Then I remembered Toby. My second cousin Toby worked for a regional delivery service that covered the rural routes outside of Denver. He was not bright, but he was observant, and he talked too much at family barbecues. I realized with a sick jolt that a property tax notification for the LLC might have slipped through the mail forwarding service once. Just once, and ended up on a truck Toby was driving. He must have seen my signature, or perhaps he saw the name WHTR and made the connection to Whitaker. They knew I had a sanctuary, and they were testing the locks. I stared at the dark screen, realizing that the questions about the living room size were not hypothetical. They were packing their bags. The air conditioning in my Dallas hotel room was humming a low, mechanical drone that made it impossible to sleep. It was 2:07 in the morning. I was lying awake, staring at the ceiling, mentally rehearsing a pitch for a potential partner I was meeting at breakfast, when my phone vibrated on the nightstand. It was not a text. It was a high-priority security alert from the smart home system in Colorado. Front entry sensor open. My heart hammered against my ribs as I grabbed the phone. I tapped the notification, and the live video feed loaded. The screen was black and grainy for a second, showing only the swirling snow outside the cabin, until the interior lights abruptly flooded the frame. I watched in silence as 4 figures stomped into my sanctuary. They were shaking snow off their coats and dragging heavy suitcases across the hardwood floors I had paid to have refinished just 2 months ago. The camera resolution was sharp enough to catch the steam rising from their breath. Even in the distortion of the wide-angle lens, I recognized the heavy, broad-shouldered silhouette of my father. Dale! He was directing the others, pointing toward the master bedroom like a general commanding troops to seize a hill. My phone rang in my hand. The caller ID said Mom. I slid the bar to answer, my voice devoid of any warmth. "What are you doing inside my house, Lauren?" "Honey." Her voice was breathless, high-pitched and frantic. "Oh, thank goodness you are awake. We just stopped by to say hello, but the weather turned so bad. It is a blizzard out here. We were freezing, and we just needed a warm place to wait it out." I sat up on the edge of the hotel bed, my grip on the phone tightening until my knuckles turned white. "You are 4 hours from where you live. You did not just stop by. How did you get the address?" There was a pause. Through the receiver, I heard a sharp, hushed whisper in the background. "Don't tell her." It was Dale. "Mom," I said, cutting through her stammering. "Who gave you the address? And how did you get inside?" There was a scuffling sound, the noise of a phone being snatched from a hand. Then Dale's voice boomed in my ear, loud and irritatingly confident. "Stop interrogating your mother, Lauren. You are making a big deal out of nothing. We are family. You are a CEO now, for crying out loud. You need to learn to be generous with the people who raised you." "I asked you a question," I said, my tone dropping an octave. "How did you get inside? I have biometric locks." "We called a locksmith," Dale said. He said it casually, as if he had ordered a pizza. "Told him I lost my keys. He was nice enough to let us in. Cost me $300. By the way, you can reimburse me later." I closed my eyes. He had not just crossed a boundary. He had committed breaking and entering. He had impersonated the owner to a tradesman. "Get out," I said. "Right now." "Don't be ridiculous," Dale scoffed. "We are already unpacked." I looked back at the video feed on my phone screen. While Dale was arguing with me, my sister Kelsey was walking around the kitchen island. She was holding her phone up, the ring light reflecting in the window. She was live streaming. I could see her lips moving, mouthing words to her followers, panning the camera around my private kitchen to show off the stainless steel appliances and the view of the frozen lake. "Guys, look at my sister's getaway spot," she was likely saying. "So proud of her." Then, she set her phone down on the counter to adjust her hair, and the angle of my security camera caught what was lying next to her device. It was a stack of papers. They were thick, legal-sized documents. I zoomed in on the feed, pinching the screen with trembling fingers. The header on the top page was visible in the harsh kitchen lighting business loan application. Secured line of credit. And there, at the bottom of the page, was a signature. It was a loop of black ink that looked terrifyingly like my own. "Dad," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "What is on the counter?" "Just some mail," he snapped. "Look, we are tired. We are going to bed. Call us when you are less hysterical." The line went dead. I stared at the frozen image on my screen. They had not just broken in to sleep. They had brought paperwork. They had brought a loan application that required collateral, and they had brought a locksmith because they needed physical possession of the property to prove residency to a notary or a bank. They were not visiting. They were seizing the asset. I did not run to the rental car. I did not speed down the icy highway to scream at them in person. That would have been an emotional reaction, and emotions are liabilities in a crisis. Instead, I sat on the edge of the hotel bed in Dallas, straightened my spine, and initiated a procedural dismantling of my family. First, I dialed the non-emergency line for the Grant County Sheriff's Office. I kept my voice flat, enunciating every syllable. My name is Lauren Whitaker. I am the managing member of WHTR Lake Holdings, which owns the property at 1242 Alpine Loop. I am viewing a live security feed of a break-in currently in progress. I have not authorized any guests, and I would like to request an immediate dispatch for criminal trespass. The dispatcher asked if I was safe. I told her I was in Texas. She told me deputies were en route. Next, I called the support line for the high-end security firm that monitored the cabin. I gave them my verbal passcode sentinel and issued a specific command. Lock the administrative privileges. Switch the entire system to owner override. I want every second of footage from the last 4 hours archived to a separate server that cannot be wiped from the panel inside the house. Do it now. Finally. I called Marcus Pike, the senior partner at Hawthorne and Pike Legal. It was 2:30 in the morning. He answered on the second ring, his voice groggy but alert. Lauren, is the funding round in trouble? No, I said. My father broke into my secondary residence. I need a cease and desist drafted immediately, and I need you to stay on the line while the police arrive. I want a record of legal counsel being present from minute 1. I put Marcus on speaker and maximized the video feed on my tablet. 10 minutes later, blue and red lights washed over the snow-covered driveway. I watched as 2 deputies stepped out of their patrol SUV, their hands resting near their belts. Inside the cabin, the mood shifted instantly. Dale stopped unpacking. He walked to the front door, puffing out his chest, wearing a smile that I knew was meant to be disarming. He opened the door before the deputies could knock. Officers, Dale boomed, his breath clouding in the cold air. Boy, am I glad to see you. We had a little trouble with the alarm system. I bet the neighbors called, right. Sorry about the noise. The lead deputy did not smile. Sir, step out onto the porch, please. Are you the property owner? I am her father, Dale said, as if that title superseded property law. Lauren Whitaker. She is the owner. We are here for the holidays. Just a little family reunion. Does she know you are here? The deputy asked. Of course. Dale lied. We spoke an hour ago. She is busy in Dallas. She told us to make ourselves at home. I watched the second deputy move toward the kitchen window, shining a flashlight inside. On the screen, I saw my mother, Brandy, freeze. She looked at the counter where the loan application and the bank envelope were sitting. With a jerky, panicked movement, she snatched the envelope and shoved it deep into the pocket of her fleece jacket. I screenshotted the frame instantly. The deputies separated my parents. This was standard procedure for domestic disputes or break-ins, and my parents were not ready for it. The lead deputy kept Dale on the porch. The second deputy spoke to my mother in the doorway. Ma'am, the second deputy asked, did your daughter give you the code to enter? Well, she knows we are here, my mother stammered, her eyes darting to Dale. Dale said he talked to her. I am not sure about the specific code. The contradiction was immediate. The lead deputy looked at Dale. Sir, you said you had permission. Your wife says she is not sure. We have a report from the property owner stating this is an unauthorized entry. Dale's face turned red. That is ridiculous. She is being dramatic. Call her right now. She will tell you. I did not wait for the police to call me. I opened the family group chat, the one I had ignored for 2 years, and typed a single message. I have not granted permission for anyone to be at the lake house. I have reported a trespass to the sheriff. Leave immediately. I hit send, took a screenshot of the delivered status, and then muted the conversation. On the video feed, Dale's phone buzzed. He looked at it, and his confidence evaporated, replaced by a snarl of anger. He looked up at the deputy. "Fine, we will leave." "But this is a misunderstanding." "Sir, hold on," the deputy said, holding up a hand. He was looking at his notepad. "You said earlier you used a locksmith to gain entry because you lost your keys." "What was the locksmith's name? I don't know," Dale snapped. "Some local guy. Look, we are going." "We just got a call back from the dispatch center," the deputy said, his voice dropping to a tone that made my blood run cold with satisfaction. "They contacted the locksmith service on record. The technician says the work order was not placed by a Dale Whitaker. It was placed by a woman claiming to be Lauren Whitaker." The silence on the porch was deafening. Dale had not just broken in. Someone had impersonated me over the phone to authorize the bypass of a security lock. That was not a family dispute. That was identity theft. The preliminary incident report from the Grand County Sheriff's Office arrived in my inbox at 7:15 in the morning. It was a cold PDF file devoid of emotion, listing the events of the previous night under the sterile headings of criminal trespass and potential identity misuse. There was no mention of forced entry, which aligned with the locksmith story. But the officer had noted a discrepancy in the authorization logs. I did not sleep. I sat in the hotel business center, fueled by black coffee and a cold, focused rage, peeling back the layers of my family's financial footprint like an autopsy. My first stop was a comprehensive credit audit. I paid the expedited fee to unlock my full history across all 3 bureaus. It took 30 seconds to find the anomaly. There was a hard inquiry dated 3 days ago from a regional lender I had never used. It was for a small business expansion loan totaling $50,000. I clicked on the details. The applicant name was Lauren Whitaker. The social security number was mine, but the mailing address for the loan documents was not my penthouse in Denver or my office. It was a post office box in Columbus, Ohio, the same box my mother had used to collect my mail when I was in college, claiming she wanted to keep my important papers safe. I traced the digital breadcrumbs. The bank's system would have required a 2-factor authentication code to approve the preliminary application. I logged into the administrative backend of my old personal email account, the one I hadn't used for business in 5 years but kept active for legacy contacts. I searched the trash folder. There it was. A verification email from the bank, time-stamped 4 days ago, marked as read and then deleted 2 minutes later. It had been forwarded automatically to a phone number I did not recognize. I ran a reverse lookup on the number. It was a prepaid line, activated last week. I cross-referenced it with the family cell phone plan I still paid for a habit I had stupidly never broken. The number was listed as a secondary line added by the primary account holder, Kelsey Whitaker. My sister had not just streamed a tour of my house. She had acted as the digital relay for the fraud. Next, I pulled up the digitized image of the loan application the bank had on file. I zoomed in on the signature. It was terrifying. It had the same sharp loop on the L and the same aggressive strike through the T that I used. It was not a clumsy forgery. It was a study. It was the handwriting of someone who had watched me sign permission slips, report cards, and birthday checks for 30 years. It was my father's hand, mimicking mine. But the final piece of the puzzle came from Toby. I called my cousin Toby from the hotel conference room. He picked up on the second ring, sounding groggy. "Lauren, I heard about last night. Uncle Dale is really mad. I do not care about Dale's anger." "Toby," I said, my voice cutting through the static, "I care about the federal mail fraud charges I am about to file. Unless you tell me exactly how they knew about the WHTR Lake Holdings LLC. I didn't open anything, Toby Stamina, his voice cracking. "I swear Dale he told me he was worried you were hiding assets from the family. He said he'd give me $500 if I just snapped photos of the envelopes that looked like business stuff before I delivered them. I never opened them. Send me the photos." I ordered, "Now." My phone pinged a moment later. Toby had sent a dozen grainy images of envelopes sitting on the dashboard of his delivery truck. Most were junk mail or utility bills. But the last one stopped my heart. It was a thick envelope from one of my lead investors, stamped with confidential. Through the semi-transparent window of the envelope, the bold text of the cover letter was visible. Congratulations on the confirmed $185 million valuation. We look forward to the Forbes announcement. The date on the photo was 2 weeks ago. I stared at the screen, the realization washing over me like ice water. They had not come to the lake house because they were hurt I didn't invite them to the gala. They hadn't come because they missed me. They had seen this letter. They knew exactly how much I was worth before the rest of the world did. They had skipped my ceremony because they were too busy planning how to leverage my new net worth to cover their old debts. I went back to the fraudulent loan application on my laptop screen. I scrolled past the signature to the section marked Collateral. My vision blurred for a second. There, listed in neat, printed block letters, was the asset pledging security for the $50,000 loan. 1242 Alpine Loop, Grand Lake. CO. They had not just broken in to sleep. They had forged a deed transfer and were using my sanctuary, the one place I built to escape them, as the down payment for their own salvation. They were going to mortgage my peace to pay for their mistakes. I did not scream. I did not throw the hotel lamp against the wall. I simply opened a fresh browser window on my laptop and navigated to the federal identity theft portal. I filed a formal affidavit of fraud, attaching the police report number from the previous night. I contacted the 3 major credit bureaus and initiated a total freeze on my Social Security number, locking down my financial identity so tight that I would not be able to apply for a store credit card, let alone a business loan. Then, I called the bank that held the fraudulent application. I spoke to a senior investigator in their fraud department. I am contesting the signature on file. I told him, my voice flat and monotone. I am requesting a forensic handwriting comparison. I am also informing you that the collateral listed on that application is currently the subject of a criminal trespass investigation. If you disburse 1 cent, I will sue your institution for negligence. By noon, Marcus Pike had drafted the cease and desist orders. Process servers were already en route to the cheap motel where my family was staying near Granby. They were being served with formal trespass notices, barring them from coming within 500 feet of the lake house or my office in Denver. We also subpoenaed the locksmith service, demanding the dispatch recording to prove the impersonation. The external threat was contained, but I needed to find the leak. My family was not sophisticated enough to find the LLC or the property details on their own. They had help. I called the chief technology officer at Northridge. Run a quiet audit on the internal server. I instructed him. I want to know if anyone has queried the keywords Whitaker, Grand Lake, or LLC from a company terminal in the last 30 days. Check the print logs, too. The report hit my inbox 20 minutes later. It was not a hacker. It was not a corporate spy from a rival logistics firm. The access had come from a workstation in the administrative wing. The user was Marin, a 22-year-old assistant I had hired 2 months ago. She was eager, organized, and had recently asked me, with wide, innocent eyes, where I went to get such a nice tan in the winter. I did not confront her immediately. I needed to be certain. I needed to see the mechanism of the betrayal. I created a trap. I uploaded a folder to the shared executive drive titled Estate Planning, Vale Property Deed, inside. I placed a dummy document, a fake purchase agreement for a luxury condo that did not exist. I set a silent digital alarm on the file. The bait sat there for less than 48 hours. On Thursday morning, the system flagged that Marin had opened the file. 5 minutes later, the data loss prevention software caught an outgoing email from her personal account to an external address, dalewhitaker3@gmail.com. She was feeding him information. My father had likely promised her a cut. Or perhaps he had charmed her with a sob story about his estranged, heartless daughter. I called Marin into my office. I had human resources and legal counsel present. I did not ask her why. I simply slid a piece of paper across the desk. "This is your termination notice for cause," I said. "We have logged your keystrokes. We have the email logs connecting you to Dale Whitaker, Security will escort you out. If you contact my family or speak about this company again, you will be hearing from the district attorney regarding corporate espionage." Marin started to cry, stammering something about needing money for rent, but I looked away. I was already dialing the next number. As security led her out, my phone buzzed on the desk. It was a text message from Kelsey. "Lauren, please don't be mad. I didn't know about the loan. Dad just said you were helping us. I just want us to be a family again. Please call me." I read the message twice. It was a masterpiece of manipulation. She was trying to separate herself from the crime, playing the innocent little sister caught in the middle. I opened the evidence folder on my laptop. I pulled up the cross-referenced phone records I had purchased from a data broker that morning. The logs were clear. The one-time password from the bank, the digital key required to submit the fraudulent loan, had been sent to a secondary SIM card. That SIM card was inserted in a phone that had pinged off the same cell tower as Kelsey's primary device for the last 3 weeks. She had received the code. She had read it out loud to Dale. I did not reply to her text. I forwarded the screenshot of her innocent message to my lawyer to add to the evidence pile. She did not want a family. She wanted an accomplice. The article went live at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. My face was on the homepage of Forbes under the headline, "Founders to Watch." The valuation of Northridge Systems was printed in bold type, $185 million. My LinkedIn notifications became a blur of blue dots, scrolling faster than I could read them. My inbox flooded with congratulations from investors, former professors, and people I had not spoken to since high school. The world saw a success story. I saw a target painted on my back. At 8:15, my phone buzzed with a text from Dale. There was no congratulations. There was no proud of you. There was only the frantic demand of a man realizing the walls were closing in. "Call me. This is big." "You don't understand. I did not call him." I sat in the glass-walled conference room of Hawthorne and Pike Legal, staring at the Denver skyline. I nodded to Marcus Pike, my attorney. He adjusted his silk tie, placed his phone in the center of the mahogany table, and dialed Dale's number on speaker. Dale answered on the first ring. "Lauren, thank God. You need to listen to me. This is Marcus Pike, representing Ms. Whitaker," Marcus said, his voice smooth and dangerously calm. "Lauren is present, but she will not be speaking. I am recording this call for legal preservation. We are preparing to file the fraud affidavit with the bank. Do you have a statement?" "You can't do that," Dale shouted, the audio crackling with distortion. "I am trying to protect her. Does she know what this looks like? A rich CEO abandoning her family in a snowstorm, leaving her own mother to freeze. Kelsey has the video. Marcus. It is saved on her cloud. We haven't posted it yet. But people talk. A scandal like that right when she hits Forbes, it would kill her stock price." I stared at the phone. He was blackmailing me. He was actually trying to leverage my reputation to cover his crime. "Let me clarify the position. Mr. Whitaker," I said, breaking my silence. My voice was ice. "We are not worried about a video of you trespassing. We have the interior security footage of you searching my cabinets. We have the audio recording from the locksmith where you impersonated my husband. And most importantly, we have the digital logs showing the bank's one-time password was sent to a burner SIM card registered to Kelsey." The line went silent. The threat of a public relations scandal evaporated instantly, replaced by the crushing weight of federal prison time. You have the locksmith audio," Dale whispered. "And the signature analysis," Marcus added. "It is a forgery. Dale." "A good one, but a forgery. Please." Dale's voice broke. It was a pathetic, wet sound. "Lauren, you can't file that report. If the bank investigates, it becomes a criminal matter. I work at the manufacturing plant. They run annual background checks on our debt-to-income ratios. If I get flagged for fraud, I lose my pension. I lose the house. I could go to jail." "Then why did you do it?" I asked. "Why did you try to mortgage my property behind my back?" "I had to. Dale cried out. I co-signed a loan for a friend, a business deal that went south 2 years ago. The collectors are calling the house. Lauren, they were going to take the truck. I needed to bridge the gap until my bonus came in. I used your name because I knew you had the credit. I was doing it to save the family. I leaned back in my chair, looking at the Forbes article still open on my laptop screen. The timeline finally made sense. They did not skip my ceremony because the drive was too long or because they felt out of place. They skipped it because they were busy. While I was walking across that stage to accept the biggest honor of my life, my father was sitting at a kitchen table, practicing my signature so he could steal a piece of my future to pay for his past sins. They did not want to celebrate the valuation. They just wanted to be the first ones to cash out. They arrived at 10 in the morning on a Monday. They did not call ahead. They did not ask for a visitor pass. My father, Dale, and my mother, Brandy, walked straight past the security turnstiles of the Northridge Systems lobby and began shouting at the 24-year-old receptionist. "We are family," Dale bellowed, his voice echoing off the polished concrete floors. "You tell her that her parents are here. We are not leaving until she comes down from that ivory tower." I watched them from the security monitor in my office on the 30th floor. My attorney, Marcus, stood beside me. "Do you want security to remove them?" he asked. "No," I said, smoothing the front of my blazer. "Bring them up to conference room 4. It has the best audio-visual recording setup. Make sure the red recording light is clearly visible. I want them to know they are on the record." When I walked into the conference room 5 minutes later, the air was thick with a specific kind of suffocating heat that only dysfunctional families can generate. Brandy was already crying, clutching a tissue to her nose. Dale was pacing the length of the room, looking at the city view with a mix of awe and disgust. "Lauren," Brandy sobbed as soon as the door clicked shut behind me. "Oh, look at you. You look so cold. I was just so afraid. I was afraid all this money would change you. We just wanted to be close to you." "Sit down," I said. I did not sit. I stood at the head of the table. Dale turned around, his face flushed. "Don't you speak to your mother like that. You owe us some respect. You owe this family for your success. Who drove you to math camp, who paid for your first laptop, and now you treat us like criminals because we tried to help manage your assets." "Help," I repeated. I reached into my leather portfolio and slid a single sheet of paper across the mahogany table. It was a printed timeline. It was color-coded. December 6th, unauthorized entry recorded by censors. I read aloud, pointing to the first entry. December 7th, live stream initiated by Kelsey Whitaker inside the property. December 8th, one-time password for a $50,000 loan sent to a burner phone located in this room. December 9th, loan application submitted with a forged signature. The door opened again. Kelsey slipped in, looking small and terrified. She had been waiting in the lobby, apparently too cowardly to join the initial shouting match. She sat next to Mom, refusing to meet my eyes. "I didn't know it was a loan, Lauren," Kelsey whispered, her voice trembling. Dad said you were busy. He said you would understand. I just wanted us to be a team again. Stop talking, Kelsey," I said. I tapped the laptop connected to the room's speaker system. "I have the forensic data from the SIM card registered in your name. But that is not the worst part." I looked at Dale. He was staring at the timeline, his jaw tight. "The locksmith," I said. "You told the police you used a locksmith because you lost your keys. You told me you identified yourself as my father. That was a lie." I pressed the spacebar on my laptop. The audio file from the locksmith's dispatch center began to play. The quality was crystal clear. "Dispatch. This is a lockout request for 1242 Alpine Loop. Customer is on the line." Then, a voice spoke. It was a deep, gravelly voice, unmistakably Dale's, but the pitch was strained, attempting to sound higher. Softer. "Yes, Hi, this is Lauren Whitaker. I am locked out of my house. Please hurry. The recording ended. The silence that followed was heavy enough to crush bones. Dale's face drained of color. He had not just stolen, he had tried to become me. The audio analysis confirmed it was a male voice attempting to mimic a female cadence. It was humiliating. It was grotesque. Dale slammed his hand on the table. "You are bloodless," he shouted, spit flying from his lips. "You are a cold-blooded snake. You would record your own father. Is that what you are now? You sold your soul for a valuation number. I raised you, I fed you, and this is how you repay me, by setting traps." He was trying to activate the old guilt. He was trying to make me feel small, to make me feel like the little girl who had to apologize for his temper. But I looked at him and felt nothing but a dull, clinical exhaustion. "I am not debating my character," I said. I slid 2 legal documents across the table toward them. "You have 2 options. Option A. You sign this agreement. It includes a full admission of fraud, a repayment plan for the locksmith fees, and a permanent restraining order. If you sign, I will withdraw the police report and inform the bank that the application was a misunderstanding." Dale stared at the paper, his hands shaking. "And Option B," Brandy asked, her voice barely a squeak. "Option B," I said, looking directly at my father. I walk out of this room and hand this audio file, the video footage, and the forged application to the district attorney. "You will be charged with identity theft, wire fraud, and criminal impersonation. The bank will sue you. You will lose your job at the plant. You will lose your pension." I checked my watch. "You have 5 minutes to decide." I said, "The clock is running." Dale thought he saw a flicker of hesitation in my eyes when he played the family card. He leaned forward, his hands flat on the mahogany table, thinking he had found the crack in the armor. "Lauren," he said, his voice softening into that practiced paternal timbre. "We made a mistake, but we are your blood. You cannot destroy us over a misunderstanding. Just delete the files, let us go home. We will pay you back when the truck sells." I did not blink. I simply pressed a button on the remote control in my hand. The projection screen behind me flickered to life, displaying a chain of internal emails. "I am not destroying you," I said. "I am merely processing the data." The email on the screen was dated 4 days ago. It was from Marin's personal account to Dale. Attached was a PDF receipt for a wire transfer of $500. "You did not just break into my home," I continued, my voice steady and devoid of pity. "You bribed an employee of Northridge Systems to steal proprietary data about my assets. That is not a family dispute. That is corporate espionage. And in the state of Colorado, that is a felony." Brandy gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Dale froze, his eyes darting from the screen to me. "But that is not the worst part," I said. I clicked the remote again. A new document appeared. It was a filing to the Secretary of State, attempting to transfer the management rights of WHTR Lake Holdings from me to Dale Whitaker. It had been rejected by the system only because he lacked the 2-factor authentication code generated by my personal fob. "You were not just borrowing against the house," I said. "You were trying to steal the deed. You wanted to evict me from my own sanctuary." I was going to manage it for you," Dale shouted, sweat beading on his forehead. "You are too busy. You would have thanked me later. I knew about the break-in 5 minutes after you opened the door." I told him. "I knew about the loan application the second you forged my name. But I did not call you. I waited. I let you stay in the house. I let you file the papers. I let you bribe Marin, because I needed you to commit every single step of the crime so that when I finally closed the trap, there would be no wiggle room, no way to claim it was an accident." The door to the conference room opened. Marcus Pike walked in, flanked by 2 uniformed security officers. He placed a stack of papers in front of my parents. "These are temporary restraining orders," Marcus said, "effective immediately. You are barred from contacting Ms." Whitaker, or approaching any Northridge property. Additionally, the bank has been notified of the fraud. Federal investigators will be contacting you regarding the identity theft charges. Brandy collapsed into the leather chair, her face buried in her hands. The fight had left her. She was finally seeing the reality of the cliff they had driven off. Kelsey looked at the officers, then at me, tears streaming down her face. She reached out a hand. "Lauren, please, I am your sister. I can't go to jail. Please tell them I didn't know help me." I looked at her. I saw the girl who used to steal money from my wallet and blame it on the housekeeper. "I cannot help you." "Kelsey," I said. "You have your own lawyer now," Dale snapped. He lunged toward me, his face twisted in a mask of pure rage. "You ungrateful witch," he screamed. "I will go to the press. I will tell them everything. I will ruin your stock price." The security officers moved instantly. They intercepted him before he got within 5 feet of me, grabbing him by the arms and forcing him back. "Mr. Whitaker, you are trespassing," the lead officer said. "You are leaving the premises. Now." As they dragged him toward the door, Dale continued to shout threats, but his voice grew smaller, less significant, swallowed by the corporate efficiency of the building I had built. When the room was finally quiet, I sat down. My phone was on the table. The notification from Dale's text message the night before was still there. "Call me. This is big." I typed my reply. It was the first and last time I would ever respond to it. "You texted because you were scared." I stayed silent because I was done. I hit send, then. I blocked the number. I blocked Brandy. I blocked Kelsey. I walked to the window and looked down at the city of Denver. The Forbes article was still live on my screen, valuing my work at $185 million. That money could buy houses, companies, and silence, but it could not buy a different family. It did not matter. The system had worked. The police, the lawyers, the banks, they were the walls I had built to replace the ones that had failed me at home. I stood tall, breathed in the conditioned air, and felt the heavy, resolute click of a door locking for the final time. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I would love to know where you guys are tuning in from today. So drop a comment down below and share your thoughts on whether Lauren went too far or did exactly what she had to do. If you enjoyed this ride, please make sure to subscribe to the Victoria Revenge Stories channel. Smash that like button and hit the hype button to help this story get heard by even more people. Stay safe out there.